My Swordhand is Singing is a fairly short book inspired by various vampire mythologies across Europe. It's sort of set in the real world with mentions of Poland and Turkey, but it feels like it takes place in a fictitious country of the author's own design. It follows a lad called Peter who lives outside the village of Chute with his father Thomas. Their existence is simple. Peter continues the family business of woodcutting whilst his father spends their profits on alcohol. The book opens with a fun little prologue about a woodcutter running for his life from the reanimated corpse of someone he once knew before having his heart viciously stabbed. We then cut to the townsfolk preparing for winter, when they believe the dark spirits and evil are at their strongest. The woodcutter has been discovered hanging from a tree and is given a scant funeral away from the church and graveyard because they believe it's a suicide and that is the custom at the times. But Peter doesn't believe it was suicide, as the man's heart had been punctured, which isn't generally how suicides look. This all coincides with the arrival of a group of gypsies and rumours of the recently deceased returning at night to visit their loved ones. Now, this book may be a children's book. I'm not really sure. There's nothing in the blurb or the content to suggest it is. But it was published by Orion, which is a children's publisher, and despite the gruesome themes and events, it doesn't feel totally adult, so I don't really know what's going on. First of all, I love the vampire mythology in this. It's a really fun blend of several beliefs across Europe, mostly the older ones as opposed to the more modern romantic notions of vampires or the Count Dracula archetype. It said the vampires are dead people who rise from their graves to feast upon the living, drawing life from those they were close to when they were alive. They are subject to various superstitions and beliefs, such as garlic warding them away, being delayed by charcoal and seeds because they have this compulsion to write until the charcoal's gone or pick up all the seeds. They can't cross running water. I find this stuff really fascinating, so I really appreciated that the vampires were sort of drawn back to their roots in this, and that it did touch on so many different beliefs and mythologies associated, because there are a lot. There is also this folk story that's used throughout the book about this shepherd who finds out that his fellow shepherds are planning to murder him, and so he tells this lamb what he wants done to his body and what to tell his mother and all that sort of stuff. It's very fairy tale-esque, similar to The Singing Bone, but mixed in with the jealous older siblings motif common in a lot of stories. And this folk tale becomes a song which is sung a lot throughout the book. One of the plot threads is about the meaning of the song, which the main character struggles with. He doesn't understand it. So I enjoyed all of that as well. Like, I love fairy tales. So I enjoyed this folk story being very pivotal in the plot and the themes of the book. The title is great. My Swordhand is Singing. That's the reason I picked up the book in the first place. I suck at titles, so I'm always jealous when I see a book with a really cool title, and I really like this title. It's a bit long, I suppose, but it is why I picked up the book in the first place. So obviously it did something right. I really enjoyed the gruesome nature of the story. It's not over the top, but it is just grim enough to make you sort of go, ooh no, ooh, that's not pleasant. I suppose a lot of people find it quite tame, but I'm a wimp, so I liked it. There were also some really quite scary bits, actually. They're very understated, but they were quite good. So it does fit well as a sort of gothic book as well. I really like that the story was actually very small. It only takes place in this one town and has a very small cast of important characters. I mean, I don't want every book I pick up to be some long epic. I do like the little compact stories that leave you satisfied at the end, so I enjoyed that it was a small scale. And finally, there was a bonus short story at the end called Bloodbeard, which was quite fun, and I enjoyed that as well, so yay for bonus short stories. I did find the writing style a little bit self-indulgent and bloated. It's not as bad as something like Nevernight, but it did give me pause. Like there was this almost smugness just under the surface. I also had an issue with repetition, and overall the writing just could have been a lot tighter. The ending was quite anticlimactic. Maybe it was meant to be because it is a small-scale story. I suppose because there were so many elements that made it feel bigger than it was, the ending just didn't match those elements. Maybe it was a bit too short because of these bigger elements that just didn't go anywhere. It felt like it was missing something. So the evil force behind the vampires and the general darkness of winter is an entity called the Shadow Queen. And then there's her rival, the Winter King, and they feel very important. They are mentioned quite a lot, but they don't really go anywhere. It just seems like a random world building detail that went on too long, and I just feel the story either needs to be bigger to encompass those elements properly, or they needed to be cut out and keep the story really small and simple. Finally, I found Peter, the main character, kind of irritating and a bit bland. Like, I couldn't really tell you anything about him. He just sort of exists. The only time he really seems to emote is when he's thinking about the song and how much he doesn't understand it and therefore really doesn't like it, which gets very annoying very quickly, and so I just didn't care for his main character. But there were other characters I liked, so not the end of the world. Overall, my Swordhand is Singing is a fun, quick read with some decent world building. I would recommend it to people who are interested in gothic fiction, especially about vampires and mythology. Also, check out the author's note at the end for some further reading about vampires and their roots, because it's obvious that the author, Marcus Sedgwick, has done a lot of research. And that's that for this review. See you next time. Bye.